There's so much fraud. You know, there's Snerdley came in today. What's this NASA news? Is NASA news all exciting? I said, yeah, they found flowing water up there. No kidding? Wow, Snerdley said. Flowing water on Mars. I said, why does that excite you? What, do you go in there next week? What's the big deal about flowing water on Mars? I don't know, man. It just, wow. I said, you know what? When they start selling iPhones on Mars, that's when it'll matter to me. I said, what do you think they're going to do with this news? I said, look at the temperature data that has been reported by NASA, has been made up. It's fraudulent for however many years. There isn't any warming. There hasn't been for 18 and a half years. And yet they're lying about it. They're just making up the amount of ice at the North and South Poles. They're making up the temperatures. They're lying and making up false charts and so forth. So what's to stop them from making up something that happened on Mars that will help advance their left-wing agenda on this planet? And Snerdley paused. Oh, yeah, you're right. You know, when I play golf with excellent golfers, I ask them, does it ever get boring playing well? Does it ever get boring hitting shot after shot where you want to hit it? And they all look at me and smile and they say, never. Well, folks, it never gets boring being right either, like I am. But it doesn't mean it is any less frustrating. Being right and being alone is a challenging existence. So, okay, so there's flowing water on Mars. Yip, yahoo. And hey, you know me. I'm Science 101, big-time guy, tech advanced, you know it. I'm all in. But NASA has been corrupted by the current regime. I want to find out what they're going to tell us. Okay, flowing water on Mars. If we're even to believe that, what are they going to tell us that means? That's what I'm going to wait for. Because I guarantee you, let's just wait and see. This is September 28th. Let's just wait and see. Don't know how long it's going to take. But this news that there is flowing water on Mars is somehow going to find its way into a technique to advance the leftist agenda. I don't know what it is. I would assume it would be something to do with global warming, and maybe there was once an advanced civilization. If they say they found flowing water, next they're going to find a graveyard.
So many parts that were hilarious. So it's a conspiracy that they found evidence of flowing water on Mars, and it's a conspiracy to push climate change. Rush, why do they need a conspiracy? They already push climate change, and they push it because it's true, not because they have some sort of ulterior motive. You're the one with the ulterior motive. But they're already on the record. You said it yourself, they have the charts, they have the data. You think it's made up, it's not made up. But they have all that stuff, and they point to it, and they point to it all the time and say, we got to do something about it. So they're already doing it. Why do they need to make up, flowing water on Mars? Yes, that's another reason we can use to push it. But why do you need another reason? They already talk about it, and they talk about it because it's true. And so douchey, the I'm right point. You know, my friends who hit good golf shots, I say, do you ever get tired of that? They say, no, I never get tired of being right. I'm so right all the time. Like I said the other day, that's like saying, my cock is gigantic. Did I remind you how big my cock is? It's fucking huge, man. Baby's arm all day long. Who says that? Usually somebody who's not confident in the size of their dick. They gotta try to pump it up, no pun intended, but by talking about it as opposed to, actually having it. It's the same thing as Pastor Manny the other day, who was calling other people gay and faggots and telling them they're dung eaters. Meanwhile, he admitted in the TYT interview that he himself has same-sex attraction. So that's what we're talking about here. And Rush, the reason why this is such a big story, you dunce, is that if you bother to read any of the articles, they lay out how flowing water means that life is possible. It was possible. So that's pretty fucking big news, man. He's like, science. I don't care about it, even though I pretend to care about it. He said, I'm Science 101 myself. Nobody cares less about science than you. You care about your visceral opinion over objective reality all the time. So, he did that segment, everybody followed up and called him a fucking idiot, because they should. And then he lost it. He came on the next day and he started attacking them. But his argument is so precious. Let's listen to it.
According to Gallup, just 4 in 10 Americans say they have a great deal or even a fair amount of trust in the media to report the news fairly and accurately. Now, if I'm in the news media business, No, I don't even think they're bothered by this. I think it bothers them the slightest because they are the first to know they're not really in the news business. And they're the first to know that objectivity and credibility is no longer the recipe for what they do. So it probably doesn't bother them, but it is explainable. Let's look at this Mars business. Yesterday we had the most incredible announcement from NASA. That, and let's not forget, and this is what is not reported in the Politico. I don't know if these local TV info people in Dallas even know what I said. I doubt that anybody reporting on what I said actually knows what I said.
Before that clip there, he had mentioned other outlets he was referring to, the main one being Media Matters. He's saying, I doubt they even read it or heard what I said. I bet none of them heard it. You want to know what Media Matters did? I'm not kidding about this. They quoted him verbatim. Their original post was a video of him going on for over about 2.5 minutes, and then underneath the video, no commentary. Nothing like I'm doing right now. Here, hey, here's my opinion. Here's why this is wrong, etc., etc. No. It was just the transcript of what he said. It was just a transcript. They quote him verbatim. And he says, I bet none of them even know what I said. They're always taking me out of context. They gave the full fucking context. They gave your literal words. And that's how you know how pathetic Rush Limbaugh is. And this happens all the time with people on the far right. They're so ridiculous, and they're so stupid, that you can quite literally quote them, read it to them, and they go, ah, that's outrageous. That sounded really stupid, so I'm against those comments. That's right. And you're the one that fucking made them. That's the problem. That's our whole reason for bringing this up. It's always the other guy's fault. It's never like, okay, my thing was off, let me clarify. No. It's, the other, fucking, you know how these guys are. Always quoting me verbatim and showing how big of an idiot I am. That's not fair. By the way, he went on in his follow-up rant here to say that NASA wants to go to Mars, and Obama has turned NASA over to Muslim outreach, in case you've forgotten. That's a quote. He said, quote, NASA wants to go to Mars, and Obama has turned NASA over to Muslim outreach, in case you've forgotten. Number one, I have no clue what the fuck that means, but I don't think Rush Limbaugh knows what that means either. But it leads to my conclusion, and here's why I brought that up. His entire point yesterday and his entire follow-up segment today was about how the NASA and the liberals, they have an agenda and they're pushing their agenda and they're ignoring the facts to push their agenda. That's why they're saying that there's water on Mars and stuff. That's his argument. The entire thing is projection. Because all of that applies to Rush Limbaugh. He's the one who has an agenda. He's the one who's trying to protect the oil companies, protect the fossil fuel companies, and say that climate change is bullshit. He's the one that's trying to push his right-wing agenda nonstop. And the best example of it is when he randomly blames Muslims and says, "Did Obama turned NASA over to Muslim outreach?" Why the fuck? Muslims do not belong in this conversation in any way. Why the fuck would you bring it up? You brought it up because you can't help yourself, because all you do is push your narrative despite the facts, as you accuse the other side of pushing a narrative despite the facts.